Imagine standing on the marble balcony of Rome, the empire beneath your feet, the world in your hands. You are Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, perhaps the richest man alive. Yet you whisper to yourself, wealth is not what you own, but what you can let go of without fear. 2,000 years later, people still chase gold, only now it glows on phone screens. We trade peace of mind for portfolio gains, chasing numbers that never end. We call it success, but deep down it feels like exhaustion. Warren Buffett once said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." The Stoics would add, "in peace from the wise to the restless." In a world ruled by greed and fear, the Stoics saw money for what it truly is, a tool, not a master. They didn't chase wealth, they mastered themselves. Today, we'll rediscover their wisdom and learn how to think about money not with obsession, but with clarity, virtue, and peace. Section 1. The Stoic Mindset of Wealth. Imagine waking up not to the sound of alarms or market alerts, but to the rhythm of your own breath, calm, steady, present. That's how Marcus Aurelius began his mornings nearly 2,000 years ago. The emperor of Rome, ruler of millions surrounded by unimaginable luxury, opened his eyes each day and reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. For Marcus, wealth wasn't measured by gold, power, or possessions. It was measured by how much of his soul remained untouched by greed. In a world obsessed with expansion and conquest, he dared to say wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how many things do you truly need to feel content? In 2023, a Harvard Business Review study revealed that 67% of professionals tie their self-worth to their net worth. That means 2 out of every 3 people feel less valuable when they lose money, even temporarily. But the Stoics saw this as madness, because money is external, and everything external is unstable. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that peace begins where attachment ends. Now imagine 2 investors. The first checks his portfolio every hour. When stocks fall, he panics. When they rise, he feels invincible. He rides an emotional roller coaster that never stops. The second investor follows the Stoic path. He saves, invests, and lives simply. When the market dips, he reviews, learns, and waits. He doesn't react, he responds. One is ruled by emotion, the other rules emotion itself. Tell me, who do you think sleeps better at night? The Stoic mindset of wealth is not about having more. It's about mastering more, mastering your desires, mastering your reactions, mastering your ego. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote to his friend Lucilius, "If you wish to be rich, do not add to your money, but subtract from your desire." Modern finance teaches us to want more, earn more, spend more. But the Stoics flipped that equation. They said, want less and you will already have more. Because the richest man is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. Now, don't misunderstand this. Stoicism doesn't reject success. It isn't poverty, worship its clarity of purpose. Money itself is neutral. It's neither good nor evil. It's the use of money, the relationship to it, that defines character. As Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. This is why Stoics believed the purpose of wealth was to serve virtue, not vanity, to fund what is meaningful, not to feed the ego. Marcus Seneca and Epictetus agreed money is a tool, but when you forget that, it becomes your master. Soft piano music fades in reflective and steady. Now let's talk about control, a central idea in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics divided life into 2 categories, things we can control and things we cannot. You can't control markets, inflation, or government policy, but you can control your discipline, your habits, and your reactions. And that, my friend, changes everything. Most financial anxiety doesn't come from losing money. It comes from fighting what we can't control. The Stoic investor focuses only on what's within reach: effort, patience, preparation. Marcus Aurelius ruled during wars, plagues, and political corruption. Yet every night he wrote to himself, not as an emperor, but as a student of life. He used his journal as a mirror for the soul. One of his reflections reads, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that. When your investments drop, do you see it as a loss or as a lesson? Your perspective decides your peace. A 2022 Vanguard report found that investors who checked their accounts less frequently outperformed others by 23%. Why? Because they spent less time reacting and more time reflecting. Less panic, more patience. That is Stoicism in numbers. Marcus lived in chaos yet found stillness. And today that lesson matters more than ever. We live in a digital empire flooded with noise and comparison. We scroll through the success of others, their vacations, their cars, their profits, and mistake it for value. But comparison kills gratitude. And gratitude is the foundation of inner wealth. So here's a Stoic exercise for you tonight. Before you sleep, write down 3 things money cannot buy that made your day better. Maybe it was a genuine smile, a deep breath, a moment of silence. Do this daily and you'll see you were never poor, only distracted. Let's summarize what the Stoics taught about wealth. First, wealth is not ownership, it's mastery of desire. Second, peace of mind is the highest return on investment. And third, control your mind and your money will follow. Because in the end, wealth isn't about numbers, it's about narratives. It's about the story you tell yourself about what you have and what you truly need. Marcus wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking. And that perhaps is the ultimate investment. Not in stocks, not in property, but in perspective. Because the most valuable asset you will ever own is peace of mind." In the next part of this journey, we'll meet Seneca, a man of immense wealth but even greater wisdom. He lived in luxury, yet practiced letting it go every month. He called it voluntary poverty, a radical Stoic habit that taught freedom through detachment. Seneca's paradox to be rich but free holds a timeless secret about modern happiness. So stay with me, because what you'll discover next might just change how you define success forever. Section 2. Seneca's paradox, rich but detached. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He owned vast estates, marble villas, and a fortune that could rival kings. Yet he once said something that startled his students. "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Imagine hearing that from a man surrounded by golden servants. How could someone with everything claim that craving, not poverty, is the real enemy? This is Seneca's paradox. He was rich but lived as if wealth were temporary. He enjoyed luxury but practiced letting go of it. And that is where the heart of Stoic freedom lies. Seneca lived during a time of immense political chaos. He served as advisor to Emperor Nero, a dangerous position in a world where power could kill as swiftly as a sword. Every day Seneca woke, knowing that one wrong word could end his life. Yet he wrote letters filled with calm humor and clarity. He called them letters to Lucilius, and inside them he hid a treasure far greater than gold, the psychology of detachment. Seneca's idea was simple yet radical practice, losing what you love before life takes it from you. He called this exercise voluntary poverty. Once a month he would eat simple food, sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, and whisper to himself, "Is this what I feared?" By rehearsing loss, he removed its power. When you voluntarily let go, you stop fearing the involuntary. And when you stop fearing loss, no one, not the market, not fate, not even death can control you. Now pause for a moment. Think about how most people today react to loss. A 2022 survey by the American Psychological Association found that 72% of adults admit that financial stress affects their sleep and health. We worry about bills, prices, and savings. We chase money for security, but in truth, that chase often deepens our insecurity. Seneca saw this coming centuries ago. He warned you, act like mortals in what you fear, and like immortals in what you desire. We fear losing money, yet we desire endlessly as if we will live forever. This contradiction is the root of modern anxiety. To live like Seneca is to flip that equation. To act immortal in your fears, calm, grounded, and mortal in your desires, humble, satisfied. It's not easy, but it's liberating. Imagine, for instance, the modern investor. He builds wealth for freedom, but ends up enslaved by it, constantly refreshing charts, obsessing over returns, measuring worth by digits. Then imagine the Stoic investor. He invests, yes, but not his peace. He plays the game, but doesn't let the game play him. Seneca once compared wealth to wind. You can use it to sail, but you must never let it steer. And that's the secret: direction over possession. Purpose over profit. In one letter, Seneca wrote, "Wealth is the slave of the wise and the master of the fool." He didn't hate money. He mastered it. He knew that money amplifies who you already are. If you're generous, money expands your kindness. If you're greedy, it deepens your hunger. So wealth is not the villain, the attachment to it is. Modern data supports Seneca's timeless wisdom. According to a 2023 University of Pennsylvania study, after about $75,000 of income, happiness levels plateau. Beyond that, emotional well-being barely changes, yet the average person keeps chasing because society equates more with better, even when more stops working. Seneca understood this psychological trap long before psychology existed. He saw that endless desire turns abundance into addiction. So he practiced detachment, not rejection, but mastery. He could dine in marble halls or sleep on the floor and feel the same peace either way. That's not indifference. That's control. The kind of control that no economy can crash. Now imagine applying Seneca's lesson to your own life. Once a month, live below your means, even if you don't have to. Eat something simple. Skip luxuries. Ask yourself, is this so terrible? You'll discover something profound. Comfort is sweet, but dependence is poison. Freedom begins when comfort loses its grip. Seneca didn't just preach, he lived this. When Nero turned against him and ordered him to die, Seneca accepted calmly. He wrote his final words to friends, comforting them. He reminded them that everything is temporary, even pain. He died with the same serenity he lived with, proving that philosophy was not theory, but preparation. And that's the essence of Seneca's paradox. To live richly, want little. To own much, but be owned by nothing. To play life's game fully, but never forget it's just a game. You might wonder, does that still apply today? Absolutely, because in 2025, people may not wear togas, but they still chase symbols. Luxury brands, social status, digital fame, the modern empire has only changed form, not spirit. The Stoic lesson remains: the higher you climb without wisdom, the harder the fall. There's a story that when Seneca was asked how much money is enough, he smiled and replied, as much as suffices for the reasonable man. But who is that reasonable man? The one who knows that the goal is not to escape poverty, but to escape the fear of it. This is why Seneca taught emotional rehearsal. He advised his students to visualize loss, not to suffer twice, but to suffer less when it comes. If you can imagine losing everything and remain calm, you've already won the only fortune that matters: peace. In the end, Seneca left behind a wealth of words more valuable than his gold. He showed that money can buy comfort, but not contentment. Luxury can impress others, but not yourself. And wealth without virtue is merely decorated fear. So what can we take from Seneca today? First, practice gratitude daily. It reminds you that what you have is already enough. Second, detach from excess. Own things, but never let them own you. Third, rehearse discomfort. Step outside comfort's cage to feel truly free. Do this and you'll begin to experience wealth not as accumulation, but as liberation. Because true wealth is not about what fills your bank, but what empties your mind of need. Seneca's life whispers across centuries: possess lightly, live deeply. He proved that detachment doesn't make life smaller, it makes it limitless. And in that space of calm mastery, you'll realize something extraordinary. You can have everything and still desire nothing. That is the freedom money can never buy. As we move forward, we'll go even deeper into the heart of Stoic investing, where philosophy meets practicality. In the next section, we'll explore how Stoic principles can guide real-world decisions, from markets to mindset, and how to build financial peace that no volatility can shake. Seneca taught us how to let go. Now Marcus and Epictetus will teach us how to move forward with clarity, courage, and calm. Section 3, Stoic principles applied to investing. There's a story about a trader who lost everything overnight. When his portfolio crashed, he fell into despair, sleepless, furious, broken. A friend once asked him, "Why are you suffering so much?" He replied, "Because I built my life on what I could not control." That man didn't need more money. He needed more philosophy. And that's where Stoicism enters the modern market, not as ancient theory, but as a practical strategy for surviving volatility, fear, and greed. Because in truth, the financial markets of today are not that different from the chaos of ancient Rome. The currencies have changed, but human emotion hasn't. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the first Stoic law of investing: control what you can and detach from what you can't. You can't control interest rates, inflation, or the next economic downturn, but you can control your decisions, your reactions, and your mindset. The moment you realize that truth, you stop being a gambler and start being a philosopher with a portfolio. Let's start with the first principle. Principle 1, control what you can. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. It divides the world into two zones, the internal and the external. Markets, prices, recessions, those belong to the external zone. Your thoughts, habits, patience, those belong to the internal. The Stoic investor spends his energy in the internal zone where effort matters. He doesn't waste emotion on events beyond reach. As Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. If you lose $10,000 in the market, that's just a number. But the panic you feel, that's your judgment. Control the judgment and you regain power. A study by J.P. Morgan in 2022 showed that the average investor underperforms the S&P 500 by nearly 4% annually, not because of bad investments, but because of emotional decisions made under stress. In short, psychology costs more than inflation. The Stoic investor reverses that equation. He invests in calm, and calm compounds faster than capital. So how do you practice this? Create a Stoic checklist before every financial decision. Ask yourself 3 questions. Is this within my control? Am I reacting or reasoning? If I lost this money, would my peace collapse? If the answer to that last question is yes, then your money owns you, not the other way around. Remember, control is freedom. And in finance, freedom is the highest yield. Principle 2, focus on process, not outcome. The modern investor obsesses over returns. The Stoic focuses on discipline. That's why the second principle is simple but transformative: focus on the process, not the outcome. Epictetus said, don't seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do. He wasn't promoting passivity, he was teaching mental flexibility. When markets drop, most investors panic. The Stoic smiles not because he enjoys loss, but because he accepts reality faster than others. When you surrender attachment to results, you gain mastery of effort. This doesn't mean ignoring numbers. It means understanding that results follow principles, not emotions. Let's look at the data. According to Fidelity's 2023 report, the best performing accounts weren't those of day traders, they were accounts that were forgotten. Literally forgotten. Investors who did nothing, who held their investments patiently, outperformed those who tried to outsmart the market. Why? Because peace outperforms panic. Process over outcome, it's not just financial advice. It's a life philosophy. You can't control if a business succeeds, but you can control your honesty, your work, your integrity. You can't control if people praise you, but you can control whether you act with virtue. And that's the Stoic strategy: play your role, well then accept whatever follows as nature's verdict. A Stoic doesn't chase fortune, he aligns with it. And ironically, that's why fortune often finds him. So here's a small exercise. Next time your portfolio drops, don't rush to react. Take one deep breath. Write down 3 lessons the loss can teach you. You'll turn volatility into education and anxiety into strength. As Marcus wrote, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The market is chaos, but your mind doesn't have to be. Principle 3, remember death. Memento mori. The third Stoic principle is the most paradoxical: memento mori. Remember you will die. At first it sounds grim, but it's the ultimate financial mindset. Because once you remember life is temporary, you stop wasting time on meaningless accumulation. You stop chasing status symbols. You start investing in what actually matters: your time, your relationships, your peace. Seneca wrote, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Imagine applying that to your investments. How much of your energy goes into checking prices instead of building purpose? How much of your life is spent trying to buy a life? Modern data backs this too. The average person spends over 6 years of their life checking phones for updates, including market data, emails, and notifications. 6 years lost to obsession with outcomes. Meanwhile, the Stoic investor spends those years in presence, in creation, in gratitude. Memento mori is not about fear of death. It's about the urgency of life. When you remember that time is the only true currency, you stop trading it for anxiety. Try this tonight. Write down one thing you'd still do if money lost all value tomorrow. If your answer feels meaningful, that's your true investment. Principle 4. Live by virtue, not emotion. All Stoic philosophy circles back to one word: virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. These four are the Stoics' inner portfolio. Markets may rise and fall, but these never depreciate. They're the moral compass in a world obsessed with comparison. When everyone else asks, "How much can I gain?" the Stoic asks, "Who will I become?" Virtue keeps you centered when greed tempts you. Virtue reminds you that money earned dishonorably is poverty disguised as profit. Virtue teaches you that generosity is the highest return because what you give freely can never be taken from you. A recent survey by Deloitte showed that employees who felt their company acted ethically were 87% more likely to stay long-term. Profit built on virtue endures. Profit built on exploitation collapses. Even the market knows morality compounds. So invest in virtue first. Every dollar is a vote. Cast it for justice, for integrity, for balance. Because the greatest wealth is living in a way that lets you respect yourself at the end of the day. Principle 5, turn obstacles into opportunities. Finally, Stoicism teaches that every loss hides a lesson, every obstacle a doorway. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In investing, setbacks are inevitable. But for the Stoic, the market crash is not the end, it's the classroom. The bear market is not punishment, it's preparation. Every challenge reveals your weaknesses and therefore your next lesson. Fear shows you where you lack confidence. Greed shows you where you lack control. Loss shows you where you've over-identified with possessions. The Stoic investor transforms pain into philosophy. He doesn't pray for calm seas. He trains to sail through storms. When the world panics, he pauses. When others flee, he observes. And when the dust settles, he acts not out of fear, but with purpose. That's how legends like Warren Buffett, influenced by Stoic ideas, thrive in uncertainty. He once said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." That's pure Stoicism disguised as finance. Because it's not about timing the market, it's about mastering the mind. From wealth to wisdom, when you add up all these principles, control, process, mortality, virtue, and resilience, you realize Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a portfolio strategy for life. It teaches you to invest not only money, but meaning. To diversify not only assets, but virtues. To compound not only returns, but wisdom. Because the richest person is not the one who owns the most, but the one who lives with the least regret. So tonight before you sleep, ask yourself, if tomorrow never came, would you be at peace with how you've invested your time, energy, and attention? If the answer is yes, you're already wealthy. If it's no, then it's time to rebalance your inner portfolio. As Marcus wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In the next and final section, we'll explore that inner portfolio more deeply, the invisible wealth of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. You'll see how these timeless virtues become the most valuable investments of all, immune to inflation, recession, and time itself. Because while money may build comfort, only virtue builds freedom. Section 4, the inner portfolio. Every investor builds a portfolio: stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe even crypto. But 2,000 years ago, the Stoics built a different kind of portfolio, one that could never crash, never depreciate, and never be taken away. They called it the inner portfolio: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus believed these four virtues were the true blue-chip assets of the soul. Everything else, money, fame, power, were derivatives, temporary instruments of chance. But virtue was eternal capital. Let's explore these one by one and see how each can transform not just your finances, but your life. Wisdom, the compass of the mind. Wisdom is the first and most powerful investment. It's not intelligence or information, it's judgment, clarity, and perspective. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can show me, in mistaken, he'll gladly change my mind. For it is the truth I seek." That humility is the foundation of wisdom, the willingness to learn, unlearn, and adapt. In investing, wisdom means thinking long-term. It means seeing beyond noise, recognizing cycles, and questioning hype. It means admitting when you don't know and knowing when to stay silent. A study by the London Business School found that 90% of investors overestimate their ability to beat the market. But wisdom doesn't boast. It watches, listens, and acts slowly. Wisdom asks, what can this teach me instead of what can I get? It's patient capital, and patient capital always compounds. To cultivate it, spend more time understanding human behavior than stock behavior. Read philosophy as often as financial reports, because the biggest market you'll ever navigate is the one inside your own mind. Courage, the engine of action. If wisdom is the compass, courage is the fuel. Without courage, knowledge remains theory. Courage is the act of doing what is right even when it's risky. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but my will not even Zeus himself can conquer." That's not just poetry. That's the psychology of resilience. In the financial world, courage is not reckless risk-taking, it's rational bravery. It's staying the course when fear grips the crowd. It's admitting losses early rather than hiding from them. It's saying no to trends that betray your values. During the 2008 financial crisis, those who acted with courage, buying when others sold, holding when others panicked, were the ones who recovered fastest. But the greatest courage is in trading its impatience. In a world that glorifies speed, doing nothing wisely takes bravery. Courage also means confronting your inner fears. Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of judgment. These are the real market crashes of the soul. Face them and you rise. Avoid them and you decay. So practice courage daily in small acts. Speak the truth when it's uncomfortable. Make decisions aligned with your principles, not the applause of others. Over time, courage becomes your compound interest in character. Justice, the ethics of wealth. Justice for the Stoics wasn't about courts or punishment. It was about harmony, doing what's fair, right, and good for others. Marcus wrote, "What's bad for the hive is bad for the bee." That's a thousand-year-old reminder of interconnection, that wealth built on harm is poverty in disguise. In today's world, justice means ethical investing, fair leadership, and compassion in business. It means creating value, not just extracting it. The Stoic investor asks, does my success lift others or exploit them? Companies that practice justice perform better too. Harvard's 2022 Corporate Trust Report showed that firms rated high in ethics outperform competitors by 12% annually. It's not karma, it's consequence. Justice turns money into meaning. When your profit benefits the planet or another person, it becomes a spiritual return. That's how Stoics view generosity, not as charity, but as responsibility. Seneca said, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Justice then is the true wealth, because only what's shared grows. Temperance, the discipline of desire. Finally, temperance, the art of balance. It's the quiet virtue, the one least celebrated but most powerful. Temperance is moderation, restraint, and clarity in a world addicted to excess. Marcus warned, if you seek tranquility, do less, or do what's essential. Temperance isn't minimalism for aesthetics, it's mastery of consumption. It's knowing when enough is enough. A 2023 Gallup survey found that 76% of people who practice intentional restraint, fewer possessions, fewer commitments, more focus, report higher happiness and lower anxiety. Temperance, in short, is a luxury of the mind. In investing, temperance means not chasing every hot stock, not panicking during downturns, not comparing endlessly. It's the art of consistency, the most undervalued skill in the market. Temperance teaches you to save when others spend a wait, when others rush, and to stay grounded when others float away in greed. It builds an emotional fortress that protects your judgment. Practice it by setting boundaries, not just financially, but mentally. Turn off notifications, stop doom scrolling, protect your peace like it's your most valuable investment, because it is. The balance of the four: wisdom without courage is paralysis. Courage without wisdom is recklessness. Justice without temperance becomes pride. Temperance without justice becomes selfishness. The Stoic life and the Stoic investor thrives on balance. Imagine these four virtues as the core holdings of your inner portfolio. When one drops, the others stabilize it. When fear strikes, courage buys. When confusion rises, wisdom holds. When greed tempts, temperance sells. When ego blinds, justice restores vision. That's not philosophy, that's asset allocation for the soul. And unlike the stock market, this portfolio doesn't depend on luck or trends. It grows quietly, steadily, through choices every day, every decision, every thought. Marcus wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So if your thoughts are wise, courageous, just, and disciplined, You are already wealthy beyond measure. A final reflection. The true ROI in the end. Stoicism isn't about rejecting wealth, it's about reordering it. It reminds us that money is useful, but meaning is priceless. That a calm mind is the highest yield. That peace once found compounds forever. So build your inner portfolio. Deposit gratitude daily. Invest time in reflection. Diversify with kindness. And withdraw pride, fear, and greed, because the markets will always fluctuate, but character endures. Economies rise and fall, but virtue appreciates. When Marcus Aurelius ruled the empire, he was surrounded by luxury. Yet every night he wrote to himself, "Soon you will be ash or bones. Remember that and live rightly." Even as emperor, he understood no fortune lasts, but wisdom does. The Stoics were not against success, they simply refused to be enslaved by it. They knew that freedom is not earned through profit, but through principle, and that the richest life is one lived in alignment with truth. So ask yourself now, what's the state of your inner portfolio? Are you rich in virtue or bankrupt in peace? Do you chase returns or do you cultivate wisdom? Because one day the markets will close, the numbers will fade, and all that will remain are the dividends of your character. Marcus would say, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So choose your color wisely. Paint your life with purpose. Invest in calm. And remember, true wealth isn't something you earn. It's something you become. In the end, wealth is not what fills your bank. It's what empties your mind of fear. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his richest possession was peace. Seneca lived in luxury, yet practiced loss to stay free. And Epictetus owned nothing, yet lacked nothing. The Stoics didn't reject money, they redefined it. They saw it as a servant, not a master. They knew that real wealth is measured not by how much you have, but by how little you need. So as you step back into your world with its noise, its numbers, its endless chase, remember this control. What you can, accept what you can't. Invest in virtue, compound peace, and every day balance your inner portfolio before you check your financial one. Because when your mind is steady, no market crash can bankrupt your soul. If this message spoke to you, if it helped you pause, breathe, and see life through calmer eyes, then subscribe to Making Life Better. Join a community that values wisdom over noise, purpose over profit, and freedom over fear. Together, let's build wealth that outlives us.